When we first started off as Ripple and we were purchased by Salesforce and we're now rebranded as Work.com, I think we found a larger company that believed in our vision, which was to be able to change the way people work together so they can actually work better together. And the way they've done that is essentially by giving us enough freedom to develop a great product, as you'll see, like that we still have, but also to understand how we can help specific industries or departments like sales. Obviously, salespeople in and of itself is a huge market for people who want to actually improve, actually meet their goals. And the sort of interesting thing that we have found is that as we sort of thinking about our product and how we can enable particular salespeople, and then moving on to, like, let's say service or everything else, is that sales in and of itself is going through a dramatic change. Most people believe sales is just purely just about getting numbers, but it's actually, you're seeing a change in behavior. People want to learn. The biggest reason for salespeople to close their deals is so they can be challengers, so they can advise customers about what's going right and what's going wrong. And part of that is a huge learning curve. So we found a really nice fit by helping salespeople achieve their goals. And these aren't just financial targets, they're personal development targets. And so by tying into a lot of the data that Salesforce actually has, you're able to create this vision of social performance and sales performance, where now a manager or anyone else can actually coach the right salesperson based on metrics and data. And I think that's been the beauty of being able to take a startup idea like Work.com or Ripple and give it some real additional context.
So give me an example of what you've just been explaining in terms of not just helping a salesperson close a deal or close a deal higher, but helping them to reach their goals.
Well,
like, what does
in
that
all
mean?
honesty, salespeople do obviously need quotas to close deals and everything else, but there's a lot of inherent behaviors about people who close deals faster than others. Do they are able to share a sense of urgency with a client? Do they demonstrate active listening? These are all key behaviors in some cases. And a lot of that is buried in some of the data, and we're able to surface that data and be able to coach people accurately around it, and more importantly, recognize and amplify winning behaviors of salespeople who do the right things. And I think that's been interesting by sort of packaging recognition and aligning it to deals and all the data that's in Salesforce's CRM. We've actually been able to find and amplify some of the key behaviors by recognizing them for it. Like, for example, you've done a great job closing this deal. Here's exactly how you do it, and let everyone else know in the sales organization exactly how that was done.
Interesting.
And I think when we think, going back to like what we're hearing today with startups and everything else, is about having that vision. It's about starting with a problem that people actually have and finding a very interesting way of solving for it. And I don't think technology is the only answer, but I think you have to sort of peel back exactly what you're trying to do. And when I look at LawTechCamp, what was interesting is there were two things that occurred to me, is that many people are using technology as a way to reflect the growing transparency issues in law.
Okay.
That there's a need for more transparency, and they think of technology as a way of breaking that down.
And do you think that works?
I think that it's an area of disruption. I think that most of law, like other verticals like medicine or even other places, have been based around information disparity, and it's hard to find honest brokers. That's been always this issue around law and doctors. We don't know what we don't know. And so now they use technology to sort of even the playing field a bit, and I think some of what we're seeing is a shift. Is that's the disruption, is that people are changing their behavior around law because they have more information, and those that are even in the legal world are trying to figure out exactly how do we give them this information, because maybe that's important.
Yeah, so consumers are, like, you're right, depending on the vertical, you know, so if it's health, people are going online and searching, you know, I've got these symptoms, whatnot, what should I be concerned about? When I go visit my doctor, I'm not printing off, you know, something from Wikipedia or a health site or whatever. And legal side is the same. People have access to this information. On the flip side of it, what have you seen specific to legal? We're here at LawTechCamp. What have you seen innovative on the technology side from the legal profession in terms of how are they using it to not combat the openness and transparency now, but to really take advantage of that?
I think that you can probably look in the news today and see how, for example...
And when you say today, you mean today.
I mean today. I mean, for example, in the U.S., the sort of collection of records, public records done by the federal government, whether or not, whatever they use, well, that's technology.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a double-edged sword to this, and I feel like part of that openness and transparency, the other half of the battle is, well, as more of our records get online, they can be used for different circumstances. In these cases, the government will argue that's a protective circumstance. In the other cases, it's actually a civil litigation issue.
Yeah.
So there is a sword. And I think more and more people are getting more comfortable with this transparency. And I think that the legal industry has to... the disruption that's occurring is that what used to be information disparity about how to run and be a lawyer is getting more commoditized.
Yeah.
And that sort of commoditization is what either people are circling around and sort of saying we should protect what we have now. And some are thinking, well, maybe we should commoditize it. Maybe there isn't anything special, and maybe we can help more if we spread a little bit more information around it. I think you'll see that that's a lot of what is happening with some of the legal startups that are here today.
Interesting. You mentioned that people are embracing this openness and transparency.
It's getting there.
Yeah, but on the flip side, are people themselves willing to be transparent about their personal situations or lives or information? Because when you have all of this data that's out there that, you know, in the past it was like, yeah, Big Brother, it's just a story, but now it's like, people actually are now, it's now in the open, saying, no, your information is being collected, yes, we're doing this sort of stuff now. Are people comfortable with that? Because, you know, the chatter on talk shows yesterday was like, what can we do as people? You know, now all my information is being collected and gathered. Can it be used against us in any sort of way? What are your I don't know if you're able to comment on this.
I don't know if I can articulate, but you're right that maybe we've gone from worrying about Orwell to embracing Orwell. You know, maybe we're like, yeah, and so what? And I think that's what Mark Zuckerberg talks a lot about, complete, utter, radical openness and transparency, which is quite a different approach that he's taken while he runs a business. So there's some things that are transparent and those some things that aren't. I think that's just what we're seeing are these little pockets of a behavioral shift. And when I talk to a lot of the people doing startups here, it is interesting that they all look at technology as the vehicle to change this sort of, to disrupt the sort of law vertical by being more open. It seems like everyone says, oh, I want to do this, I want to do this. And I'm like, really, you're just encouraging transparency. You're giving away information that you used to pay for, and you're trying to give it for free, or at least for a less expensive sum, and trying to be an honest broker. And I think that is a radical shift for law. And I think that's what are some of the touch points that we've had today. So the lawyer of the future may be very, very different. It might be less specialized than it is, or it's a different class. Or we'll all be very good at understanding law, just the same way that most kids are really good with computers.
Does the consumer win at the end, do you feel?
I don't know if it's a win or lose. I don't know if that's maybe that's like a false question. I don't know if there's a win or lose. I just think that there's also historic reasons for this sort of disparity, and that's always going to exist. Right? I don't think that consumers at the end shouldn't be the arbiters at the same day of whether this is good or bad. I'm not 100% sure if, you know, being able to consume law is a really good moral question. That is a different thing. Because I don't know if civil litigation or criminal law or laws of equality, those kind of things that essentially keep our society together, are based on a consumer model.
Interesting.
So I don't know about that. I'm not a lawyer.
Why'd you tell?
I know a few of them. Though.
You know a few.
They're out the door.
Talk a little bit about, just to end this off, talk a little bit about what you're doing at work.com.
Sure. At work.com, I actually work in the customer success team. And what that involves is really taking this promise of work.com, which is getting organizations to align their goals and motivate each other and really get a better sense of feedback about what they're doing on a more frequent basis, and putting that into practice in some of the largest organizations that we have. A lot of that is understanding how to use the service, but coming up with the best practices and ensuring that all of them have a really confident way where they can see that value and change the relationships they have with one another. And out of all of that, there's real business impact.
Nice.
Companies tend to be more engaged, or employees of companies tend to be more engaged. They reduce churn, they hang around a bit more, and they end up making a real valuable contribution to that bottom line.
Fantastic. If people wanted to connect with you online?
Twitter, at Venk Chandran, in LinkedIn, Venk Chandran, Facebook, Venk Chandran, and through Kareem, Venk Chandran.
Awesome.
That's it.
Thank you, man.
Thanks.